Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. David strolled into the xenobiology classroom, the hum of excited chatter greeting him as he found a seat near the back. His keen interest in alien biology drew him here, to one of the university's most sought-after courses. Just as he settled in, a tall figure entered the room, causing a stir among the students. It was Professor Hargrove, known for his dynamic teaching style and deep knowledge of extraterrestrial life forms. Behind him followed a lean figure with a graceful gait, distinct from any human. This had to be Cyril, the Altharian exchange student David had heard about. "Good morning, class," Professor Hargrove began, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "This semester, we have a unique opportunity to delve directly into alien anatomy, thanks to our volunteer, Cyril from Altar." He gestured towards her, and all eyes shifted in curiosity. Cyril stepped forward, her voice calm yet carrying across the room. "Hello, I'm Cyril. I'm here to learn, but also to share. My anatomy isn't just different. It's a glimpse into the biodiversity of the universe." A student raised his hand, his brow furrowed. "How different are we talking? Like, do you have extra organs or something?" Cyril smiled, nodding slightly. "Yes, quite different. For instance, Altharians have a tri-chambered heart and sensory skin that can detect changes in environmental vibrations." David leaned forward, intrigued. The idea of sensory skin sparked a dozen questions in his mind. Before he could voice one, another student jumped in. "So, you can feel what? Sound? Wind? Both, and much more," Cyril explained. "It's how we communicate on my planet. We feel the conversation." The room buzzed with awe, and more questions started flying around. Seeing the growing interest, Professor Hargrove interjected, "Let's save our questions for the lab sessions. I'm sure Cyril will be more than happy to demonstrate and discuss further." As the class dispersed, David approached Cyril. "Hi, I'm David. That was fascinating. I've never heard of sensory skin before." "Hi, David," Cyril responded, her expression open and friendly. "I'm glad it interests you. There's so much I want to share. Maybe we could start with a coffee? There are a few things I'd love to discuss about Altar and your biology," David suggested. Cyril considered it for a moment, then nodded. "I would like that. It's good to have a friend in a new place." They walked out together, heading towards the campus cafe. As they walked, David couldn't help but feel that this semester was going to be unlike any other. Between sips of coffee, they discussed everything from the basics of human anatomy to the complexities of Altharian physiology. David found Cyril's insights into her own biology not just educational, but also a window into a culture vastly different from anything he'd known. "I have to prepare a project for this course," David mentioned as they neared the end of their coffee break. "Would you be interested in collaborating? Your first-hand experience could be invaluable." Cyril's eyes lit up. "I'd love to. It's a great way to deepen my understanding, too." As they agreed to meet the next day to outline their project, David felt a surge of excitement. This was not just about academic collaboration. It was about bridging worlds, one question at a time. In the university's advanced laboratory, the air was tinged with the sharp scent of antiseptic and excitement. David and Cyril, accompanied by a small group of interested students, gathered around the high-tech equipment, ready to delve deeper into the mysteries of Altharian biology. David adjusted the microscope settings, focusing on the slide that held a sample of Cyril's epithelial cells. "Okay, everyone, take a look at this. Cyril's cells have a unique bioluminescent property. It's quite different from anything you'd find in human biology." Tom, another xenobiology major, leaned in to get a better look. "Wow, they almost shimmer. Is that a form of communication for you, Cyril?" Cyril nodded, her eyes reflecting pride in her heritage. "Exactly. We can control it to some extent. It helps in darker environments and is also used to express emotions." Mark, who had been taking notes fervently, looked up. "Does it serve a defensive purpose as well? Like, can you light up to scare off predators?" "It's more for communication and social interaction," Cyril explained. "Our main defense mechanism is not visible. It's chemical. But let's focus on one system at a time. The group moved on to a larger display where Cyril had agreed to demonstrate her sensory skin. David gently placed a variety of materials against her arm, observing the skin's response to different stimuli. As you see here, David pointed out, when I apply a slight breeze with this fan, there's a subtle glow from her skin. It's reacting to the change in air pressure, Cyril added, and each sensation has a different pattern. It's how we feel the world. Mike, another student, adjusted his glasses, his curiosity piqued. Could this sensory system be adapted or learned by humans or other species through genetic engineering? That's a complex ethical question, David responded thoughtfully. But theoretically, studying these mechanisms could lead to advancements in sensory augmentation for humans. The discussion deepened, with students debating the ethics, possibilities, and implications of integrating alien traits into human biology. Cyril listened intently, occasionally providing insights from her planet's own history of genetic sciences. As the session neared its end, the professor returned to check on their progress. I see there's been a lot of active learning today, Professor Hargrove observed, a slight smile on his face. David, Cyril, would you be interested in presenting your findings at the upcoming Interstellar Biology Conference? David and Cyril exchanged a quick, excited glance before nodding in agreement. We'd be honored, David replied. Great. Prepare a detailed report and presentation. You're not just representing our university, but also showcasing the potential for future interdisciplinary studies between humans and Altharians, the professor instructed, his eyes twinkling with enthusiasm. As the group dispersed, David and Cyril stayed back to discuss their next steps. This could be groundbreaking, Cyril. Are you okay with all the attention this might bring? Cyril chuckled softly. I think I'm ready. It's all part of sharing and learning, right? Plus, having friends like you makes it easier. David smiled, feeling a deep respect and camaraderie for Cyril. Let's make this a project to remember. We'll meet tomorrow to start drafting our presentation. As they packed up their equipment, the lab's fluorescent lights flickered slightly, echoing the subtle glow of Cyril's skin. A reminder of the new, shared journey they were embarking on, driven by curiosity and the promise of new understanding. The campus library was unusually quiet as David and Cyril settled into a secluded corner with their research spread out before them. Books on xenobiology, interstellar ethics, and genetic engineering created a fortress around their workspace. David flipped through a hefty volume, his brow furrowed. It's fascinating how your sensory skin works, Cyril. But translating it into something presentable for the conference is going to be a challenge. Cyril nodded, tapping her pen against her notepad. We need to simplify the concepts without losing the essence. Maybe we could use analogies that relate to human senses. That's a good start, David agreed, scribbling down some notes. Like comparing it to human tactile feedback, but on a more advanced scale? Exactly, Cyril said, warming to the theme. And we can demonstrate the bioluminescence as a form of nonverbal communication, similar to body language in humans. As they discussed, Mark joined them, his laptop under his arm. Hey, I heard you two are presenting at the conference. Need a hand with the tech side of things? David looked up, relieved. Actually, yes. We were just discussing how to effectively present Cyril's bioluminescence. Maybe some visual aids or interactive elements. Mark set down his laptop and sat beside them. We could use high-resolution imaging to show the cell activity, maybe even create a live demo with audience interaction. What do you think, Cyril? Comfortable with that? Cyril considered it, then smiled. I think it's a great idea. Engaging the audience will definitely make our presentation stand out. They spent the next few hours outlining their presentation, Mark contributing his expertise to ensure their technical setup would be flawless. The collaboration was seamless, the trio bouncing ideas off each other with growing excitement. As they wrapped up for the day, Tom walked past and overheard their conversation. Sounds like you're onto something big, he remarked, pausing by their table. We hope so, David replied, packing up his books. It's not just about the biology. It's about understanding and appreciating the diversity of life in the universe. Tom nodded thoughtfully. Mind if I join you next time? I've been working on a similar project on adaptive biology. Might be useful. Of course, Cyril answered, pleased. The more perspectives we have, the better our understanding will be. With their group expanding, David felt a surge of optimism. This was no longer just a school project. It was a collaborative exploration that might one day bridge worlds. As they left the library, the evening air was cool and refreshing, a stark contrast to the warm glow of the library's lights. David, Cyril, Mark, and now Tom walked together, discussing the future of human and alien scientific integration. Imagine a world where we can share not only knowledge but also experiences, just as easily as we share conversations, Cyril mused aloud. David smiled, looking up at the stars peeking through the twilight. It starts with steps like these. Who knows where it'll lead us? With their project taking shape and their team solidifying, the path forward was bright with promise. Their shared curiosity had not only forged professional ties but was knitting a fabric of friendship, rich with the potential to foster broader understanding and cooperation. The university campus was abuzz with the annual Cultural Fusion Festival, an event that celebrated the diversity of its student body. With a blend of music, art, and food from various parts of Earth and beyond, the festival was the perfect backdrop for David, Cyril, and their friends to take a break from their rigorous preparation for the upcoming conference. David and Cyril, joined by Mark and Tom, wandered through the bustling festival grounds. Each stall presented a different world's culture with vibrant displays and interactive experiences. "Look at this," Mark pointed out as they approached a booth showcasing traditional Martian sand sculptures. "The precision these require must be incredible." Cyril was fascinated, her eyes scanning the intricate patterns. "It's similar to the surface designs in Altharian architecture. The flow and form are meant to align with our sensory perceptions." Tom, who was sampling a spicy dish from a nearby Earth stand, chimed in. "I guess art and architecture have a way of crossing cultural boundaries, finding common ground." David nodded, taking a bite of the same dish. "It's amazing how much we can learn from each other, not just in science but in every aspect of life." They moved from booth to booth, each member of the group sharing insights from their own backgrounds. As the sun began to set, the festival's atmosphere shifted. The lights dimmed, and the evening's main event started, a showcase of traditional and contemporary dances from around the galaxy. "Hey, they're doing the Unity dance. It's a human tradition but adapted for interstellar unity," David mentioned, recognizing the introductory notes of the music. Cyril looked intrigued. "Unity dance? I'm not familiar with that. What's it about?" "It symbolizes the coming together of different cultures, celebrating diversity," David explained. "Actually, it's quite easy to learn. Do you want to try?" With a hesitant yet excited nod, Cyril agreed. They moved towards the dance floor, where others were pairing up, humans and aliens alike, swaying to the gentle rhythm of the music. David carefully guided Cyril through the steps, their movements awkward at first but gradually finding synchrony. "You're doing great," he encouraged as Cyril began to move more confidently. "This feels like flying through the stars," Cyril laughed, her earlier apprehension replaced by joy. Watching them, Mark nudged Tom. "You know, we ought to incorporate some of this into our presentation. Show how integration isn't just about science." Tom agreed, his mind racing with ideas. "Maybe we can start or end with a short clip of this dance. It's a powerful metaphor for what we're trying to achieve." As the dance ended, the group rejoined, flushed with excitement and chattering about the night. "That was more fun than I expected," Cyril admitted. "I see now how such experiences can bond different beings." "Yeah, it's one of those human things that's universal," David replied, smiling at her. "Music, dance, art, they transcend language and biology." The night wound down with the group, returning to the discussion of their project, now with fresh perspectives. "Let's meet tomorrow to outline the final touches on our presentation," David suggested. "And maybe add a bit about today, how cultural exchanges can be as enlightening as academic ones." Agreeing, they all felt a renewed sense of purpose. The festival had not only been a diversion but a reinforcement of their mission to bridge worlds through understanding and shared experiences. As they departed, the festival lights twinkling in the background, there was a palpable sense of anticipation for the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. Their project was more than just an academic endeavor. It was a stepping stone towards a more integrated, understanding universe. The evening after the festival found David and Sarah walking back to campus from the library, a slight chill in the air. The streets were quiet, the only sound their footsteps on the pavement and the occasional distant laughter from late-night revelers. David broke the silence, reflecting on the day. That dance yesterday, it really made me think about how much we've been able to share with each other. Not just academically, Sarah smiled, a hint of moonlight catching in her eyes. Yes, it's been enlightening. I've learned so much about human culture, and hopefully shared enough of mine. You've shared more than enough, David reassured her, his tone earnest. It's been a privilege learning from you. They reached a small park, the campus observatory visible in the distance. Spontaneously, David suggested, "Let's take a break. Have a seat here for a while." They found a bench under a sprawling oak tree, the leaves whispering above them. Sarah looked up at the stars, her expression thoughtful. Back home, we have a saying about the stars, that they're not just balls of gas, but the souls of our ancestors watching over us. That's beautiful, David responded, drawn into the tranquility of the moment. We have something similar in human culture. Stars as guides, as sources of wishes. Their conversation drifted from folklore to personal dreams and aspirations. It was during this exchange that David felt a surge of emotion, compelling him to speak his truth. Sarah, these past weeks with you, I've felt something more than just friendship, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah turned to him, her face illuminated by the soft glow of a nearby street lamp. David, I felt it too, but I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to. It's more than appropriate, David interjected gently. It feels right, doesn't it? Yes, it does, she confessed, her voice mingling relief and happiness. I wasn't sure if human emotions were something I could even experience properly, but being with you has felt like discovering a part of myself I didn't know was missing. David reached out, taking her hand in his. I feel the same, Sarah. Being with you has opened up new worlds for me, not just literally. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their confessions hanging in the air, sweet and daunting. Finally, David asked, "What do we do now?" "We explore this," Sarah suggested, her voice steady. "Just as we've explored everything else." With curiosity and openness, they leaned closer, and David felt the warmth of her breath just moments before their lips met. The kiss was tentative at first, as if testing the reality of their feelings, but it soon deepened, a physical manifestation of all the emotions they had shared. As they pulled apart, the world seemed to realign itself under the starlit sky. They knew challenges lay ahead, the distance of worlds, the difference of species, but in that moment, none of that mattered. "We should get back," Sarah finally said, though neither of them moved just yet. "In a minute," David agreed, both of them knowing they were not quite ready to end the evening. They sat together a while longer, under the watchful eyes of the stars, basking in the new intimacy they had discovered. It was a beginning, delicate and profound, and as they eventually stood to walk back to the campus, their hands remained intertwined, a silent promise to face whatever came next, together. David and Sarah sat together in the dim light of David's small apartment, a quiet sanctuary away from the bustling campus. The previous night's confessions had opened a new chapter in their relationship, one filled with both excitement and uncertainty. David poured 2 cups of tea, the steam curling up into the air, and handed one to Sarah. "I've been thinking about what you said last night about exploring this us." Sarah took the cup, her fingers brushing against his. "Me too. It feels like we're on the brink of something wonderful, yet daunting." David nodded, sitting down next to her on the couch. "Exactly. And while I'm new to relationships with, well, anyone not human, I want to learn. I want to understand what makes you feel happy, sad, or anything in between." Sarah smiled, a warm glow in her eyes. "And I want to understand you as well. Human emotions are complex, but there's a beauty in that complexity." They sipped their tea, the silence comfortable. After a moment, David set his cup down and turned to face her more directly. "Last night, when we kissed, it was different from anything I've ever experienced. Can you tell me what it was like for you?" It was illuminating, Cyril confessed. Altharians do feel love, but our expressions of it are less physical. Feeling your closeness, the warmth of your lips. It was intense, like a connection of not just bodies but also souls. David reached out, gently caressing her arm, watching the bioluminescent response flicker beneath her skin. "It's beautiful," he murmured. "Does it feel okay when I touch you like this?" "Yes, it's very pleasant," she assured him, her skin glowing softly with each stroke. "And when I touch you, how does it feel?" David laughed softly, the sound filled with affection. "It feels amazing. Your touch is soft, yet there's a strength to it that's reassuring." Encouraged, Cyril traced her fingers along David's jawline, fascinated by the sensation. "Humans have such expressive faces. I can read your emotions through your eyes, your smile." As they explored each other's expressions and touches, the atmosphere between them grew deeper, filled with a tender curiosity. It was a dance of discovery, learning the nuances of each other's responses. "Cyril," David began hesitantly, "I feel like this is leading somewhere special. I want to be with you, in every way possible. But only if you're comfortable." Cyril looked into his eyes, her own luminous with emotion. "I am, David. I've never felt this way before, and I trust you." With mutual understanding, they leaned in for another kiss, this one deeper, fueled by the emotions simmering between them. As they pulled apart, Cyril whispered, "Let's not rush, though. I want to cherish every moment, every new discovery with you." David agreed, his voice a soft echo. "There's no rush. Every moment with you is worth savoring." They spent the rest of the evening talking, kissing, and simply being together, the night stretching out before them filled with the promise of more discoveries and a deepening bond. As they eventually drifted to sleep, curled up together on the couch, the world outside seemed to recede, leaving only the certainty of their affection and the journey they had embarked on together. The sun was setting as David and Cyril walked back to the university campus after a day spent in the local city's botanical gardens. They had talked about everything from alien flora compatibility with Earth environments to what their future might hold. David looked over at Cyril, who seemed pensive. "You've been quiet since we left the garden. What's on your mind?" Cyril sighed, turning to face him. "I was just thinking about the end of the semester. It's approaching fast, and I don't know what happens after." David felt a pang of anxiety at the thought. "I've been thinking about that too. There's a lot of uncertainty, isn't there?" "Yes," she agreed, her voice tinged with sadness. "I'll have to return to Altar. My program here is only for one academic year." They reached a bench near the edge of a quiet pond and sat down, the reflection of the early evening stars beginning to twinkle on the surface of the water. "There might be options we haven't considered yet," David said, trying to keep the hope in his voice. "Maybe you could apply for an extension, or I could find a research grant that includes work on Altar." Cyril smiled weakly. "I appreciate your optimism, David, and maybe it's possible, but we also need to consider the possibility that it might not work out." David nodded, taking her hand. "I know, but whatever happens, I want to make the best of the time we have left, and I'm committed to making it work, no matter the distance." Cyril squeezed his hand. "I feel the same, David. Let's promise to make the most of now and figure out the future as it comes." Their conversation was interrupted by a call on David's phone. It was Mark, sounding excited. "Hey, David, are you with Cyril? Can you both come to the lab? Tom and I have some news about the conference." "Sure, we'll be right there," David replied as he hung up. He looked at Cyril with a curious grin. "Wonder what those two have cooked up now." They arrived at the lab to find Mark and Tom in front of a large digital display, images of their presentation materials visible on the screen. "We've been talking with the conference organizers," Tom began, unable to hide his enthusiasm. "They're really interested in our collaborative work and the cultural insights we've been integrating. They've given us a prime spot for the presentation." And, Mark added, "they're also interested in discussing a potential grant for ongoing research collaborations between human and Altharian academic institutions." Cyril's eyes lit up. "Really? That's incredible." David felt a rush of relief and excitement. This could be exactly what we need. "Cyril, Maybe this is our chance to continue working together. The group spent the next few hours discussing the details and refining their presentation. The energy in the room was palpable, everyone motivated by the potential impact of their work, not just academically, but personally for David and Cyril. As they wrapped up for the night, David and Cyril walked back to her dorm. Today turned out to be quite hopeful, didn't it? David remarked. It did, Cyril agreed, leaning her head against his shoulder. And whatever happens, I'm grateful for this experience, for all I've learned and for us. David stopped and pulled her into an embrace. No matter where we are, we're connected, through what we've shared and learned. That won't change. They stood under the starlit sky, holding onto the moment and each other, ready to face the future with courage and hope. On the day of the Interstellar Biology Conference, David, Cyril, Mark, and Tom arrived early at the venue, a bustling hub of academics, researchers, and students from across the galaxy. The energy was electric, a vibrant testament to the curiosity and drive shared by all present. As they set up their presentation station, David double-checked the equipment. Everything needs to run smoothly. The visual aids, the interactive displays. Let's make sure they all work perfectly. Cyril, checking the bioluminescent samples, nodded. I'll handle this section. It's crucial that everyone understands the unique aspects of Altharian physiology. Mark was busy with the tech setup. I've synced the interactive part with the main display. It should be seamless now. Tom, arranging the last of the handouts, looked up. We're ready to show them something truly unique. This collaboration could open up so many doors for all of us. As the room filled, a diverse crowd of humans and aliens gathered, intrigued by the promise of learning about a rare integration of human and Altharian scientific endeavors. The presentation began with David introducing their team and the scope of their project. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to discuss not only the fascinating biological traits of the Altharian species, but also the potential for future collaborative research between our worlds, David announced, his voice clear and confident. Cyril took over, guiding the audience through the basics of her anatomy, demonstrating the bioluminescence and sensory skin capabilities. As you can see, when stimulated, these cells emit light. This is not just a biological trait, but a form of communication for us. The audience was captivated, their faces a mix of wonder and curiosity. Mark then demonstrated the interactive part of the presentation, inviting attendees to experience simulated Altharian sensory responses through special equipment. By understanding these responses, we can explore potential applications in medicine, communication technologies, and even environmental sensing, Mark explained, as participants engaged with the displays. Tom discussed the ethical implications and the importance of cultural sensitivity when integrating such deeply personal aspects of alien anatomy into human research. It's imperative that we proceed with respect and consent, ensuring that our curiosity does not override the dignity of any species. As the presentation concluded, the room erupted into applause. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with several scholars expressing interest in contributing to the research. After the presentation, the conference organizers approached David and Cyril. "Your work is impressive," one of them said, shaking their hands. "We're interested in sponsoring a pilot program based on your findings. Would you be prepared to lead this project?" David and Cyril exchanged a glance, a mix of excitement and anticipation. "We would be honored," David responded. "It's a chance to further our research and strengthen the bond between our worlds." As the conference wound down, the team gathered to celebrate their success. "Today was a major step forward," Cyril said, her voice filled with emotion. "Not just for our careers, but for the future of human-Altharian relations." David wrapped an arm around her, proud and hopeful. "We did it together. And whatever the future holds, I know we'll face it the same way." In their final biology presentation, Cyril had volunteered to demonstrate her alien anatomy to the class, bringing their project full circle. It symbolized not only their academic success, but also the personal unity they had achieved. In their farewell, they promised to work towards a future where distance was merely another obstacle, fortified by the love and understanding they had cultivated. As they left the venue, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, mirroring the light of possibility that their work had ignited. a future where different worlds and beings could come together in harmony and mutual respect.